Bluegrass Station provides supplies, uniforms, and equipment to more than 700,000 service members in 84 countries.
It's located in both Fayette and Bourbon counties, and now, as WKYT Samantha Valentino shows us, some neighboring landowners fear they might lose their property to a proposed 2,000-acre expansion project.
Rebecca Rigney and her family own land just down the road from Bluegrass Station.
We're very much in limbo, and it's from tears to anger to almost like defeat, where you feel like you don't have any power over the choices being made.
They've lived here for 20 years, and now Rigney fears they're going to be pushed out due to a proposed project to expand Bluegrass Station. According to a consulting report presented to lawmakers in November of 2022, the proposed expansion would include 1,000 acres for an airfield and another 1,000 for an air park, with the potential to double in size in the future. What neighboring landowners find concerning is the report's mention of the potential use of eminent domain, the government's right to purchase private property for public use.
Do we not matter more than maybe making another base work? Because we're going to get mowed down, and that does feel like a land grab.
Retired Major General Stephen Collins is the director of Bluegrass Station. He says there are several reasons why this airport is being proposed at Bluegrass Station rather than elsewhere.
Our tenant is here, and that operation is here. The aviation analysis picked this location for a new airport that was justified by civilian aviation needs.
The consulting report says the expansion would create between 3,000 and 6,000 permanent jobs and bring in $12 to $20 million in new state and local taxes each year. Collins says with this proposal, the benefits outweigh the downsides.
There's a lot of pain for the people who are in this local area that are involved. But if you look at the reasons for doing this, there's more pain associated with the thousands of people who currently work here or could work here. If we don't do it, there's more pain that way.
In Bourbon County, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
And the most recently passed state budget included $55 million in bond funds to acquire the land for the expansion. The latest proposed version of the state's budget includes more than $320 million to build the airport and make additional improvements at Bluegrass Station. The agency report says the Commonwealth will be able to recoup 100% of its upfront investment in less than 3 years. You can read more about the controversial proposal by heading to this story on our WKYT News app.